All right, folks, welcome to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Appreciate you taking out some time to, check in and listen. And if you haven't already, if you would, write a 5-star review if you feel there's any value here from the podcast, and or subscribe to any of my channels on YouTube or Rumble. That would be greatly appreciated. And today I've got a guest. We were just talking briefly before, and I'm a little jealous because she's down in Costa Rica. But I want to welcome to the show today, Carrie Schell. I apologize.
That's okay.
That wrong. How are you doing today, Carrie?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time out and spending a little bit of time here with me and kind of, sharing your experience and your story for the audience to, I started this honestly because I went through both addiction and indictment, and it really set me back for, obviously as I was going through those experiences, set me back. But after I got out of prison in 2010, I was really stuck for a long time, basically, from a mental standpoint. And anyway, so when I finally got through that, I just thought, there's so many people out there in this world, whether it's through addiction of any type or, just any type of trial in life, it can, do a lot of things to us from a mental standpoint. And so I just like to share stories of people who, have overcome adversity and have found success so that we can inspire those who maybe are in those darker places, to give them hope, number one, but to let them know that people like us are out there and that we're here if they reach out to us even. I'm not going to volunteer your time, but I know that if, somebody that's struggling reaches out to me in a direct message or something, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I stop to deal with things like that because, that's truly what, gives me the most fulfillment in life. And that's just helping somebody else. And so, once again, thanks for being here. And as I mentioned to you, even with my background in addiction and, being around alcoholics and being in the rooms of AA for years, I had never heard of, gray drinking. So maybe let's start there and talk about kind of your experience with alcohol and what, gray drinking is. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm so happy to be here. So the whole gray drinking thing, before I came into knowing about gray drinking, my experience with alcoholism and addiction was twofold. One, on one side, I had some family members who were struggling with the issues. And professionally, I was the director of a residential treatment center. And that, from graduate work and doing research, I really felt strongly about taking a different approach to recovery. And so my approach was rooted in yoga, meditation, and physical activity. And we were having amazing results, and research was backing us up. It's more effective in a lot of cases than traditional therapies, and certainly the litany of medications that usually people who go into treatment are on. I'm sure that may have been your experience, or when you were in treatment, you realized, everyone here seems to be on a certain 4 or 5 medications. So we were taking a different mind, body, spirit approach to addiction recovery. Now,
I love
fast forward to COVID, and all of a sudden I realized that even though I myself was never an alcoholic, I was realizing that I was drinking quite a bit more than I had been. And I would read or hear in the news reports of alcohol sales were skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And I heard several years ago the expression gray drinking. And I just thought, I think I'm a gray drinker. So now the shoe was on the other foot.
That's so interesting.
Before here, I was helping people in addiction and alcoholism in their recovery. And now I was having to turn the mirror on myself. And although not an alcoholic, I was in that gray area. And that's why we call it gray drinking. I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm realizing my relationship with alcohol isn't healthy. And so
That
that really
makes total sense.
got this going for me. And I
Uh,
realized that a lot of women, especially, are great drinkers and have become great drinkers through COVID.
I think that's, you bring up COVID, and I think that's something we should maybe spend a couple of minutes on because, I've always, as I look back on my addiction, at the time, I was lucky. I was a very functioning addict. In fact, I was just telling my son earlier, because I am on a couple medications that I know affect me from a physiological standpoint. And I don't like it when anything affects the way I feel. I'm not taking anything that gets me higher or anything like that. But anything that can affect my personality, or where there might be peaks and valleys, I don't want that, but as I look back on my addiction when I was using opiates like crazy, and I've talked about it on past episodes, I had a very successful business and I didn't ruin that, and what I was sharing with my son earlier is, I'll be honest with my listeners right now too, is I had an experience Monday where I kind of had something come up where, that topic came up where maybe I lashed out when I normally wouldn't, for example. And it hit me because when I had my appraisal firm, I rented an office to a friend of mine who was an insurance agent. And I apologize for taking so much time because this isn't about me, but I think it's really important because honesty is huge. And I went to this friend at one point when I was heavily still using, and I told him I was tired of it, and this was before I really knew how to stop and things like that.
Right.
And I'll never forget his response because I just rebranded my appraisal firm. It was doing incredibly well. And he said, well, why would you even worry about that? You're doing so great and and when this thing happened Monday, and I was sort of called out in a way about the way I responded to one of my boys who worked for me. And I realized, and I had noticed it and talked to my wife about it, but I realized it is affecting other people occasionally. And that's not a big thing, and it doesn't happen. And I'm not like just mean, but if anybody's sensing there's something, that is something to me.
Yes.
And then to have my brain think about what my friend said, and even for 1 second, that thought entering and thinking, well, I could solve it that way. Now, luckily, I'm healthy enough and educated enough that I go talk to my wife about it, and it wasn't even considered to truly happen. But that is how easy things could change,
Yes. Definitely.
And so, and anyway, and so as my business was really doing well, I had a lot of free time. And so what I've shared before, and I think what COVID has made happen, is the idle mind is the devil's playground.
Yes.
And so I believe that a lot of things have increased dramatically through COVID and the lockdowns, whether it's domestic abuse, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, overeating, whatever. And so I think it's an important topic to address because we have to be aware ourselves. And so, you're the perfect person to be talking to because it sounds like that, like you said, the relationship started to become unhealthy a little bit.
Definitely. And you bring up a couple really great things. The first is, I think I know as people, we were born to have connection and to be in a sense of community and fellowship with one another. And so COVID really changed that. It put us in isolation. We weren't able to have those connections with family members, with friends, with our social groups, our gyms, what have you, even our places of work. For some people, that's perhaps their only sense of feeling of belonging. So when you don't have that sense of connection, you'll go and find it anywhere you can. And as you alluded to, that might be drugs, it could be alcohol, maybe it's online shopping, pornography, gambling, overeating, social media, you name it, we will find something to give us a sense of connection, right? And we even find this even in healthy behaviors. So people who are let's say, into keto diets, then their whole thing is keto. We become like that in our communities. Or if you're a vegan, or I'm just using eating as an easily relatable example. So that's one thing. We found ourselves isolated, longing for connection, community. Plus, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty and angst. So there was a mental wellness component there. The other thing that you referred to was your friend who made the comment.
Yes.
And I think this is where we are with great drinkers, that the benchmark for what is seen as normal has changed. And so for many of us, alcohol is part of everything we do. I go for lunch with friends. I have some wine. I get home from work and I'm going to make dinner. Wine was my thing. So I'll use that as an example. So I'll have a glass of wine while I'm making dinner, or seeing how the kids were at school, then with dinner, and then maybe one before bed. And even though it might be, 3/4 of a bottle over 7 hours, that's still 3/4 of a bottle probably every day.
Yep.
And maybe more if I went out to a party or something on the weekends. Now, if I were to say to one of my friends who's also in the same position, do you think I'm drinking too much? Like, should I be worried? They would say, you don't drink too much. Look, we all you drink as much as me. So it normalizes it.
Such a great point.
Yeah, and it makes it so challenging to then take ownership of the fact that we're thinking that our relationship is unhealthy. And so that's why we need to actively, as you said, now you have gone through treatment and you know what you should do when you're feeling that little, even if it's a minute trigger. I'll go talk to my wife. I'll talk it through. But for other people who aren't in that position and this is new and it's a different situation, they don't know what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So true.
It's pretty complicated, and it's hard
really
when
is.
It is so normalized and we're seeing it in media. And I was telling a friend, I'm noticing even in media and entertainment that they're really portraying women now as hard liquor drinkers. Like they're always having a scotch or a bourbon.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost promoting, if you want to be a certain kind of woman, then this is how you behave, right? So it's all around us and it makes it very challenging.
That's so true. So, so what did you do? So once you recognize that, like, you obviously are, very knowledgeable with the career and what you're involved with. I mean, so what did you do and what would you suggest somebody does, to be able to really look? First of all, you have to be willing to look, but if you did realize that, hey, what you just talked about kind of is defining their experience, like, what do you suggest?
Yeah, there are a few things. So I think if you've ever been in the position where you're saying, oh man, am I drinking too much? Like, do I need to cut back? That's a pretty good sign that you may need to, right?
Yeah.
Or if you are the kind of person who says, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you're kind of like, see, I don't have a problem. I went 30 days. And as you're saying that, you're celebrating by having a drink, right? Or if you've ever had that little angel saying, like, you know what, take care of yourself. This is getting into risky territory. But this guy here is saying,
chirping away.
Don't listen to that guy. Like, you work hard. You have got your life together. Your job's okay. And I think that's the tricky part, as you said, for a lot of great drinkers. For great drinkers, you have your act together. You're not screwing up at work. Your relationships are intact. You have healthy friendships. And so, as your friend said to you, like, you don't need to worry. So I think if you've thought of any of those things, what I'd really recommend is I have a free 10-day reset at the 10dayreset.com, but take 10 days. And it's going to be really hard because if you're like me, I'm a Monday person. If I want to start something, it's Monday. And I'll probably, indulge in what I'm giving up on the weekend. Right? And then I'm starting on Monday. So try, and on that Sunday, I can tell you that I was apprehensive. And I'm thinking, okay, well, tomorrow I have this, and this on. I'm really going to just want one drink at the end of the day just to decompress, and you'll give yourself reasons why to delay that start. So
So
another
true.
good sign,
That's
right?
so true.
So, but what I
Did
recommend,
that
take
many
10
times.
days. Take 10 days, because with alcohol, different from opiates, alcohol
Uh-huh.
will leave your system quickly.
Oh yeah.
So by about day 5, 6, you're seeing some really nice health improvements. You may be shedding some water weight. You may be sleeping a little better. You might be a little less bloated. You may have never been hung over per se, but you may think, wow, I'm feeling a little clearer or less
Yeah.
foggy or less fuzzy. Or you may have think I'm a little less grumpy. I didn't think I was grumpy, but I'm feeling like a little happier. So 10 days gives you the time to kind of clear out and then make an informed decision on what you want your relationship with alcohol to be.
Well, that's great advice. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's just like that clarity when I, remember, that movie 28 Days. And I remember when I hit 28 days of sobriety, it's crazy
Yeah,
how true that was. I
it
mean, the
is.
fog lifted and I just couldn't believe what I had told myself, to keep doing what I was doing, because I was in a
Yes.
bad situation at the time from a marriage standpoint and stuff. And it's like, I totally believed I was cool being a weekend dad and I was, separated, ready to get divorced,
Right.
When that fog lifted, I just went, holy shit,
Yeah,
what have I been doing?
exactly. And it's important to point out that different from alcoholism and addiction, true alcoholism and addiction, this is a new territory that we're stepping
Yeah.
into. And so, although clinically we would say that an alcoholic can never have alcohol again, what we're trying to do with the Great Drinking Reset is, yes, of course, it would be great to just have a substance free life and not be dependent or feel beholden to anything, even if it is alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But we are able to do some behavior modifications. So, like someone who may have used to have eaten too much sugar, you can learn to maybe have the odd sweet once in a while without it being kind of nagging in your brain all the time or having cravings. And with gray drinking, because it's clinically not at that disease state, people, if you really become mindful and change some behaviors and patterns, and maybe change some friendship groups if needed or that
Yep.
sort of thing, you may be able to have the odd drink or two. So I just want to put that out there, because I don't want women who this is resonating with think, well, will I never be able to have a drink or two? It's all a very
Yes.
personal journey. Someone will know after the 10 days, you know what? I don't think I can do another drink because I'll get sucked back into where I was. Some women may feel emboldened and powerful and may be down the road be able to reintroduce the odd drink or two.
That makes sense. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, like you said, it's kind of a personal thing. I mean, if you're aware enough to realize what's happening and then take that 10 days, you probably, for the most part, probably aware enough to be able to evaluate things honestly,
Yes.
And if you're not sure, reach out to someone like you, to get a little guidance and help.
And definitely reach out. And I think it's important how you were saying that you had a very successful business. My experience has been that a lot of gray drinkers are very high performing or almost a type A personality.
Yes.
And so it becomes our way of almost rewarding what you do in the day. So you've had your workout, you've gone to work, you've taken the kids to lessons, you've made a great dinner, the house looks great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, check, 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 check. Now I can uncork the bottle,
yes.
Right? And so it kind of becomes the carrot that we feel helps us unwind. We feel that we're kind of entitled to, or that it's our reward. So that's another thing. If you're that kind of personality trait, you may want to keep that on your radar as well.
That's a very good point. So you mentioned, that yoga, meditation, became a big part of what you do. Has that always been the case, or did that become more of the situation after the great drinking? Or is that just part of kind of your recovery and the things that you teach?
Yeah. So yoga and meditation became part of my life quite a while back. But it was really when I was doing research for graduate work that I and I did that later in life. So that I became aware of the power far beyond what I had been using yoga and meditation for, and how in a clinical setting such as recovery, how it was so powerful. And I was really blessed and fortunate to help people. And it was amazing because I would work in a collaborative setting. So after I would do, say, the morning yoga, guided meditation, and then I would do group work with our clients. And once they would have their one-on-one, say, psychology sessions or with other addiction specialists, the team would get together and I could then craft guided meditations that would help people with where they were at in their journey. And the power of meditation was so incredible. And everyone would have these breakthroughs at different times that would
Wow.
allow them, as you said, to see the pain or the trauma and recognize it and sit in it and go deep
Yep.
into it, but then come out the other side and realize, wow, I'm still here. Okay, I got through that emotionally, through that emotional journey. And as you said, I didn't need anything and I'm okay. And in fact, I'm better than okay. I feel better and lighter and stronger and more empowered. So it's an amazing tool, and we really encourage people to, if they haven't, to try yoga, to try meditation, because it's very accessible. There's
Yeah.
no
Oh, yes.
competition, no judgment, and just enjoy the journey.
That's great. Well, let's talk about meditation for a minute,
Yes.
because, I don't do that as much as I want to. Well, I want to every day. I'm doing it several times a week, but I struggled for a long time. And so I want your professional opinion and input for the audience, because I think we can get stuck sometimes thinking there's a certain way you're supposed to do it. And until I let go of that, I just never really found anything from it. So
Yes.
what can you tell us about meditation and what is important, what's not, and what
Right.
would really help people?
Yeah, I think as you hit it right there, people think that there's a certain way to meditate, um, that they have to be in certain positions, they have to wear certain clothing, that they have to think about absolutely nothing.
Right. That's
And
so
that's
hard.
and,
I mean,
and our brain will never ever
that's
shut off.
right.
So that's completely unrealistic. But what it is, I think a great way to get into meditation is through guided meditations,
That's where I've had the
especially
best
for
success.
people who say are a true addict or a true alcoholic, because a lot of times they tend to be on an ADHD medication
Yep.
for various reasons. So, and it's really hard for them not to just keep spiraling in their thoughts and looping in thoughts. So, a guided meditation is a very gentle way for you to just, I encourage you, even lay down and just be present and to hear it and to just let go and to just follow along with the meditation. And once you're comfortable in that, then you can start introducing just even a 1 minute meditation
Yeah.
on your own, integrated with the guided meditations. One thing I love to do is when I'm out for a hike or a walk, or even at a desk or something, I'll just stop, say stride on a hike, and I'll just stand there and close my eyes, and I'll just let all thoughts go just for 30 seconds. And you just feel
That's
whoosh,
great.
you feel a calm come over you. You can do that at a desk. You can do it anywhere. Just put everything down, put your hands on your desk, palms down, feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes and just let it go 30 seconds. And it's just like this quick little refresh. And it's just teaching our brain how to recalibrate and how to rethink. And so when you get those thoughts in your longer meditations, it's not that you're not going to think of something, but when you lie there and you start thinking, okay, today I need to go to the grocery store, I need this, and this, you just say, oh, I'm thinking of laundry. Okay, let that go. Back
Yep.
to inhale, exhale. And you just refocus your thoughts for whatever that is for you at that meditation. It could be your breathing. You may have a mantra you're saying. So a mantra is just
That's
a
good.
word or a group of words. It could be I am happy, or I'm feeling healthy, or love, one word, whatever you want it to be. So there are lots of ways that you can get access into meditation. And there are many apps online that
I
I
was
know
going to ask you, what
people
resources
that
would you
are,
recommend?
you know what, there are just too many out there, and it's a
Yeah.
personal choice of what works for them. But don't let that be a hindrance. There are many free ones out there, and just go for it. Just try it.
Yep. But I think I think if you're struggling with it or not sure what to do, that's where I finally found success, was guided. Because otherwise, because that just helps you stay more focused on what's happening. On my own, I would get the thoughts going. There was times I would obviously catch them and try to let them go, but it seemed like it was constant. And then I at least tended to, let that not shame me or guilt me or make me think it's not valuable.
Right.
So then you stop doing it.
And even saying an expression to someone who's never meditated or done yoga, catch the thought and let it go. They're thinking, what the hell are they talking about?
Right.
So, for people who are listening, basically what that means is you're just, all of a sudden you realize, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to be trying not to focus on, say, my to-do list today.
Yes.
I'm just supposed to focus on inhaling and exhaling today. And it's just realizing, oh, I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch when I should be thinking about inhaling and exhaling. So even our language can throw people off, but once you get into it, then you'll use the language too.
That's great. So what are you doing currently? And, not only where can people find you, but, let's talk about first, what are you doing currently before I ask the next question?
So I have a book that's coming out in a couple of months, The Gray Drinking Reset.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's basically a 4-week program for people. Maybe they've done the 10-day reset, which is a free 10-day downloadable that it's really easy to do. And after the 10 days, for people who think, you know what, I want to do this longer term and I want more support, they can do the Gray Drinking Reset, where we go a lot deeper. The 10 days is a nice, gentle, pretty easy way into not having alcohol for 10 days.
And they can find that on your website, right?
They can find it on the website and join our Facebook group at thegraydrinkingreset.com on Facebook.
Awesome.
But the 4 weeks, it goes more in depth, and we do some cognitive behavioral. We do a lot more work to help you understand why you're drinking, what your relationships are like, what's been impacted, where you find your strength, and it helps you determine and set your goals of how you want your life to be.
That's awesome. Is that a one-on-one or group or both? Different options?
So there are different options, so whatever works for you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I do find that, back to the whole isolation and COVID, I think a part for people also is that we have lost our spiritual footing. And so trying to reconnect somehow with what is your spiritual faith and foundation, and using that as your go-to, at the end of the day. And for me, my faith journey, my spiritual journey is the most important thing to me. And so I had actually, just before COVID, before my first book, Yoga Recovery, came out, I had thought, you know what, unless I can present myself to the public authentically incorporating my beliefs, then I really need to step back, because I can get lots of followers, but it has to have more meaning. And so I think for a lot of people, they've lost the essence of what is that meaning. And so part of my awareness of my gray drinking was that when I was celebrating, when I was wanting to relax or unwind, or I was upset or angry, I would go to a bottle of wine before I would pray and meditate. And I realized that's not the woman I want to be. I want to be that woman who is true to herself, to that divine spirit in there, and I want to go there first.
That's such a good point.
That bottle of wine.
I mean, I think that's such a good point, because that's who I've always been, and it's totally backwards,
Yes.
And I think the majority of the people would feel that way, but I think the majority of people also are backwards.
Yes.
I personally feel that there's been a shift taking place, which has been, it's been my case, but I really think that that's becoming more aware to people. And I think that's what we need right now in the world, is that spiritual connection and more love and
Yes.
connection,
100%.
because there's just too much bad stuff out there that, we've got to, I feel like it's a consciousness thing, we've got
Yes.
to, as human beings, level up our consciousness and unite and get rid of this division and all this garbage that, that does help pollute our minds to create a lot of these habits, things that become bad habits that we don't want to be doing anyway.
Exactly. And really, alcohol, speaking of alcohol, that really just numbs the senses. It doesn't
Yes.
help us, come together and be a one conscious mind.
Bingo.
So
Yes.
that's another amazing reason to just really want to put that down. And when we see how pervasive alcohol is, you realize how that's really dulling so many people who want to have that
Yes.
connection, but that's just an obstacle in the way for us for doing so.
So true. Yeah. Because if we're
Yeah.
doing that, doing opiates, whatever it is, it's blocking that connection, like you said. And that is
It
so
really is.
important, I think.
It is.
So, well, this has been great. Where can people find you? I know you mentioned your website, mention it again.
Right.
And then, of course, I'm going to have all these links in the show notes.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
you
You can
bet.
reach me at carrieschell.com and you can fire me an email. You can message me, DM me on Instagram at Meet Carrie Schell. And I would love to talk to you because, like you, this is really important. And
It
I'm here
really
to
is.
connect and help you on your journey. So thank you so much.
You bet. I'm going to throw you a curveball that just decided to come to my mind. So, you obviously have your own business,
Yep.
right? So, for those that are entrepreneurs or those who have always wanted to be but have been stuck, what is one lesson you've learned that's helped you in your business? Just anything. It doesn't,
I think for me, it is really making sure everything's in line mentally, physically, and spiritually, and especially the spiritual component, because I think today it's very easy with social media to have followers, to have likes, to get
yes.
caught in that trap. And at the end of the day, when we know that we may not be representing ourselves or our brand or our product in a way that's really in line with our faith and spiritual selves, you're going to come to a hiccup there. But when it all
Yes.
comes together, there's such motivation and you can work harder, you can try new things, you have a confidence and you're emboldened in a different way. That's been my experience.
No,
So
that's beautiful. I like
I would
that.
just encourage people to just examine and bring it all together because it's easy to misguide and
It's so
portray
true.
ourselves in a different way. But we have to live with ourselves at the end of the day. And if it's authentic and genuine and it's promoting what's truly worthy and valuable, it all just comes together.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because I think that's taking your intention about what you're looking to do to the next level before you truly
Yes,
step off to do it. That will give you a huge advantage, I believe.
that's right. And then
So that's
you're not
huge.
questioning or second guessing yourself in
Right.
what you're doing and your motives and how you're going about things. It's very genuine.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's phenomenal.
Great.
Well, appreciate your time, and I look forward to staying in touch. And like I said, I'll have all the information on people connect with you and your social profiles, etc. In the show notes, and then we'll go from there. But thanks so much for your time.
Yeah. And one last quick thing, I just encourage people to start talking about great drinking,
Good
and
point.
when you're out and you're all having drinks, just say, hey, I heard about this thing, great drinking. What do you think? And see people's reaction and see how it makes you feel and just get the word out there because it only takes one person to maybe be the catalyst and the motivator in a group to get everyone to re-examine. And how you said, it's just, we don't know what's going on with someone. And having that smile, sometimes I know in the world of addiction and alcoholism, just even stopping and having eye to eye contact with someone can be the difference between someone giving up hope and feeling that they're
Oh,
valued
so
and
true.
worthy. So just take the
So
time
true.
and just let's talk about it. Let's start a conversation and start connecting on it.
Great. Well, thanks
All
again.
right. Well,
That was
thank you
great.
so much. This has been lovely. I appreciate your
No,
time.
it's been my pleasure. And I'll talk to you as soon as we're done recording, let you know when this will be going out. For those listening, it will be, I think we're about 4 weeks out on this. So
Okay.
well,
That's
thanks
great.
again. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Okay. Bye.